Folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to cover a couple of topics about the ideological nature of childcare when it comes to LGBTQ, trans, and all that sort of stuff, and the infiltration, subversion, and perversion of the legal system by planting activists really all across, particularly at the federal judge level, planting activists at all, in all of these federal courts, say in the US, but elsewhere as well. I mentioned recently a video that shocked me that I saw where some of the most senior, in fact, these senior judges of this particular region were meeting, and all were giving the most prejudicial determinations. This is in a general meeting. It's not like they're hearing a case, but talking amongst themselves about how white people stole the land, the blacks are oppressed, they deserve compensation. We have to do something to uplift them. We've got to stop the evil white fascist Nazis from oppressing them. I mean, the most outrageous stuff. But coming from, if you've got a bunch of sort of kids waving placards on the street, you go, oh, okay. But these aren't just the junior judges. These aren't the clerks in the court or anything like that. These are the most senior judges in the region. These are the top dudes. These dudes can decide with the stroke of a pen whether you go to prison or not, for how long. That's the sort of people we're talking about here. And they came out with that insane and extreme levels of prejudice there against white people, and very prejudicial, as in predetermining the relative status, as in victim status of blacks and whites. But we're seeing the same thing when it comes to the LGBT trans and all that sort of stuff. So I've noticed a few cases in the United States. Now there's an activist Jewish judge. I'm sure it's a coincidence that he's Jewish, very much on board with the globalist project, and he has made public statements to the effect that gay, lesbian, trans people are oppressed by straight people, and that they should be deserving of an ideological form of justice which accepts and recognizes their victimhood and their persecution, and therefore raises the bar very, very substantially. Say they're in legal contests, these people, they get a much lower bar they have to meet, but those on the other side get a much higher bar, which this judge asserts will produce equity. So rather than the facts, this judge relies on ideology to determine what the case is all about. And when it comes to trans, then it's definitely it is a reality that the man can become a woman simply by saying so. That is a reality. And anyone that says it isn't is fucking Hitler. So this is a judge, by the way. So don't expect to go into that judge's court, or other activist judges for that matter, armed with facts that should, each one of those facts being the kill shot for your legal case. It isn't going to matter. You can have a million kill shots. If the ideology is on the other side, then you're screwed, dude. So now, what sort of concerns me in that way, and not that isn't concerning enough, you've got blatantly activist judges running around pretending to be judging on the facts, but they don't. Now, on top of this, there's a particular judge that has heard many of LGBTQ type cases, and he has a 100% track record of finding in favor of the LGBTQs. 100% track record. So when there's an LGBTQ case to be heard anywhere in the United States, the people wanting, the activists who are funding the case, by the way, the activists make the decision to prosecute the case. Again, all NGO funded. The people that do it haven't got the money or the resources. It's all activist NGO funded, lavishly NGO funded. Now, these people also have the wider activist connections. So they can, from the time they signal they want the case heard in court, it'll take them less than 2 weeks, sometimes even a few days, to get the matter heard by this activist judge. So just think about this for a minute. So there's got to be someone there to complain, like the aggrieved party, as it were. Then they've got to get the resources, like to fund it. Someone's got to sign off on all that money because it's quite expensive. Then lawyers have to be appointed. They have to write up the case. Now, the standard of documents, certainly that I've seen by activist lawyers, is absolutely piss poor. But nonetheless, lawyers have to write it up. Then they got to file it, pay the filing fees, do all those. But they managed to get to an activist judge, and the activist judge then agrees to hear the case on some emergency basis. Now, what's the fucking emergency here? I'd like to know. Like a trans kid wants to transition, so his parents say, and he's 12 or 13, not even an age where they can make that decision, you wouldn't think, but his parents and the activists and the activist doctors and the activist social workers, none of whom are operating on facts, they're all operating on ideology, say to the judge, oh yeah, it's got to be done today, we can't wait. And so they're able to get an emergency hearing, and sometimes very short notice. So the government or whoever's on the other side of the thing has barely got any time to respond, to put together a case. And then the judge gives the decision in favour of the LGBTQ thing. Now, how do you get a case that's not urgent at all? That kid can wait. What is it? The 13-year-old is urgent, and Your Honour, suicide rates among these people are 50%. So if we don't do it, it's going to be killed. It's murder. It's Hitler. And you're like, Hitler. Did somebody say Hitler? Decisions. And so it's all ideological nonsense by children jabbering away like idiots. But this is the reality in the legal system all across the Western world today. Whichever countries have been targeted by the globalists for transition from fully functioning healthy democracies into nothing more than shadows of their former selves and repositories for mass peasant, brown and black migration, this sort of stuff, for societal destruction. The legal systems there are just falling to pieces before our very eyes. There's no one standing up against it. No politicians. You get the odd one or two politician that might make a bit of noise, but not really doing anything. So our legal system all across the Western world is being destroyed. The reason being is a fully functioning legal system relying on the rule of law and due legal process, the rules of evidence, this sort of thing. It would just make it so much harder for the globalists to push their project onto us. So accordingly, because it makes it hard for the globalists, they've got every motivation and reason just to get rid of it. We don't need this bullshit, the rule of law and due legal process. What we need is a compliant judiciary that'll do what the fuck we want them to do. That's what the globalists are doing. And that's, these judges, these activist judges are doing exactly that. Something else that's sort of come up, that's been around for a while, is that if in some jurisdictions across the Western world, that if, I think from the age of 12, if the kid says they want to transition from one gender to another, they can tell their school teacher. And that's a reliable fucking place there. Tell their school teacher, it's like, well, I'm afraid of my parents if I tell them, or I've told my parents, but they won't let me do it. 12 years old, by the way, they won't let me do it. So the state can automatically come in here and put the children in a safe house because they're in danger. They may harm themselves because of the evil Nazi fascist parents, Hitler. And so the government can put them into social worker care and accommodation on the basis of an allegation. Nothing's been proved. There's been no court of law. There's been no facts, no evidence. Just the kid has said that to the teacher. The teacher says to the social worker, and the social worker, right, that's it, done. And then suddenly the state's intervening. Now, the parents can get it heard in a court, but it's quite a long waiting list. There's no emergency hearings for them. You want a transition, then you can get an emergency hearing. If your parents are opposing it, you damn well wait in the fucking queue, you Nazis. They don't get any emergency hearing. So it could be 12 months before they get the matter heard in court. And by that time, the beginning or commencement of the process, if not the procedure itself, is already done. So So this intervention by the state without evidence is now this has been going on in various forms for a while, protection of children. I'll go back to a case some time ago, and I've mentioned this in the previous video. So somebody, a trainee kindergarten teacher, says that a child told her that she saw, when the kid came out of the toilet, that he'd seen some other kid's appendage. So that they thinks that's what the kid meant. The kid didn't say it, but that's what the kid might have meant, or the teacher thought. Now, bear in mind, it's a young girl, trainee kindergarten teacher, who's by the way just completed her gender studies course. So she's concerned about this because she's heard about all these Nazis that are everywhere, all these straight white male parents that are abusing their children sexually, the sexual pedophilia. She's heard about all this, and they're Nazis. If a gay guy does it, that's all right, but if the straight guy does it, it's Hitler. So she calls her, what do I do? And instead of following proper channels or procedures, she decides she's going to call her gender studies professor, the professed hater of families, hater of straight white males. I think this may be the truth. Well, based on what you said, it sounds like it. I'll refer it to the senior social worker for child abuse. Now, what the gender studies academic doesn't say is that senior social worker for child abuse is actually her lesbian lover. That she doesn't say. So next thing you know, this person's then signing off on a government intervention. So social workers are coming in, they're grabbing the child in front of the parents. Police are there. If the father objects, he's going to be arrested and put in prison. Then that'll be on his file. Arrested a felon, a Nazi. So he's got to be a little careful now. And this rolls on through the courts. Bankrupts the parents, by the way. Rolls on through the courts, and then finally they reach an appeals court where the court says, well, look, you've got no evidence. Where is the evidence that there was any abuse? But through the whole chain of all the people who are involved, all of them were activists. All of them were activists. All of them were operating on ideology. None of them operating on facts. And so they could just continue thinking, we know he's a straight white male. He's the father. He's a Nazi. He's Hitler. We know that. We don't have to prove anything. He is Hitler. So it's that ideological sort of attitude that drives the whole thing forward. Even the judge of the lower court was himself an activist social worker, got appointed to the court. Again, that's not declared. None of these things are declared. All these himself an activist social worker got appointed to the court. Again, that's not declared. None of these things are declared. All these activists are involved. Fanatical zealots. They're all involved, but they're treated as if they're independent, impartial advisors and witnesses and experts, but they're nothing of the sort. So now, just on another side, any kid, this is in Australia, I assume it's the same elsewhere, any kid under the age of, I think it's under the age of 17, can go to a government-run child's refuge and say, my father abused me. Again, it's allegation alone. There's no proof or evidence or anything. Now, it could be that maybe the father said, look, you're not going out to night clubbing, you're going to study for your exam that's tomorrow, or something. Could be something like. So no evidence is required. So he beat me up, raped me, killed me, this, that, shot me, whatever. And again, no evidence required. Well, if he shot you, can you show me the bullet hole? No. They accept every claim is treated as genuine. No evidence is required. No verification of any sort is needed. But it is enough to trigger a police investigation of the father. So the police come around knocking on the door saying, hey, prove you didn't do it. Do what? So that goes on. Now, the kid in the meanwhile, particularly young girls, the kid in the meanwhile can stay at this place for, this government place for a certain, it's not forever, a certain amount of time, like 30 days or 60 days, something like that, but gets free food, a room, with a bed in it and everything, all the bits, all the things, do you need pajamas, got your, the toothbrush and everything is provided, courtesy of the taxpayer, based on an unverified allegation. But this now has created a record of suspicion that the father's a child abuser or a rapist, or this or that, or whatever, whatever the claim was. So we've moved into a situation with trans as well, where a 12-year-old trans kid say, I want a trans to be a woman, or trans to be a man, or whatever. Parents won't let me, or won't agree, or I have fear. I'm in fear of what they might say or do. Bingo, that's enough. And straight away, the government is putting resources at the disposal of this confused kid. And there's no verification or burden of proof that's required. Now, this seems to be, not seems to be insane, it is insane. But these are the sort of things that are going on, and we need to contemplate. If we're looking at degrading our society as quickly and as efficiently as we can, this is one of the ways to do it. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.